Hey everybody, it's Sunday morning here in Cypress, Texas. So, I don't get up and do my workouts on Sunday morning, but it's a gap in my content, right? Doesn't mean I stop reading my scriptures. I read my scriptures every day. It's changed the way I'm reading them. So for like 3.5 years, I've been binging the Old Testament, Genesis, Psalms, and Proverbs, reading the same chapters every day and meditating on them and talking about them. And so now I'm learning this new Hebrew meaning, and I'm in Matthew, starting in the New Testament. And so I'm in chapter 5 of Matthew, and this is the Beatitudes. So when I was doing Celebrate Recovery, I was, every week got the Beatitudes put on you, right? And they didn't. So now I'm looking at them and getting the Hebrew meaning. So when they translated the New Testament, which was originally Hebrew, that's how Christ talked, it was translated to Greek and directly translated to English or Latin than English. And but it's a two-dimensional language, where the Hebrew with the pictorial symbols gives it a third dimension. Okay, so now what I would do, read a whole chapter. I'm in one verse, dissecting every word, so looking at it and going to the Old Testament, find the same word where it's got the hyperlink to the Hebrew. Then that's usually going to be the modern Hebrew, which is the cursive writing, right? And then translating that to the symbolism, and then going and look at the cards that have the meaning of the symbolism on them. All right, it gives it a whole new meaning. And so I'm like, whoa, so now not only the verse has a evolved meaning, like it's doing in my mind like the Transformers, right? It's a Camaro that blows up to something totally different, and packed inside of it. Okay, so that's what happens when you look at the Hebrew meaning of these words. And so I am not to the point yet where I see how they all go together, they map together yet. Okay, but I'm working on that. It's been very interesting. And I just got done reading this book, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, and he's talking about people and tracking their actions based on their understanding from the life they came from, like this Coco Chanel girl who figured out how to work a system where wealthy young businessmen who wanted pretty girls would pull them out of their poverty, basically make them concubines, right? But set her up in business and see her ideas and help her capitalize on them for fashion. And then her cologne, Chanel No. 5, that's who she came up with that. She formulated the fragrance, right? And made it popular. And she was one of those ones that had the vision, that could take things. She could pivot. That's a key word. Okay, you got to pivot. You got to look at, that's something that happened to me in 2006. I saw I needed to pivot, all right, out of the mortgage real estate industry And I was going to pivot to financial services, but the people around me, it reminds me of the book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Stephen Covey says, usually the leaders grabs the machete, starts blazing a trail through the jungle, and the manager's watching for a while and say, okay, he's making some progress. And they start, sharpening his machete when he's dull, gives him water when he's thirsty, wipe his brow when he's sweaty, start cleaning up the debris behind him in a nice assembly line, making everything neat. All right. And then after a while, the leader's like, okay, everybody, wrong jungle. And the manager say, shut up and keep moving, at least we're making progress. Okay. Nimrod, also known as Hammurabi, came up with protocols to get him in a more powerful position. He was a small-time king with a small little country surrounded by powerful kings, right, that could crush him in any minute. But he made himself valuable to them by creating systems for business and trade. And he even created the shekel. Okay, so what was the significance of that? So he had an army, and they would go and conquer the enemy and loot them and pillage them and take their valuables as booty. All right, and he's like, that's a good idea, but I should be getting that. And it's creating an unfair playing field for the rest of my troops who weren't part of that campaign. And so he created the shekel so they could all get a living wage, right? And if they did attain any bounty from their enemies, it went to him. Okay, but that revenue coming in brought more soldiers. His army grew, and then what did he do? He conquered the neighboring kingdoms that were his allies in business, but he didn't need them. It was his system anyways. He just took them over, okay? And that is how he grew his kingdom, okay? Now, there's this Zietgiest, okay, this spirit of a time. You can be a catalyst. You have a vision like Coco Chanel, right? And you see that you have something that's in demand and people need, okay? And you are the one promoting it or creating it, okay? You are filling a need that's out there in the subconscious, the collective subconscious, okay? And the whole media, the news, the movies, the TV shows, they're trying to create a zeitgeist that benefits them, okay? Like it's been called, what has it been called? Hypnotic rhythm. They can put these jingles out there and make you think of that business or whatever, right? If I say, where's the beef, right? You know exactly, I'm talking about Wendy's. That commercial hasn't ran for over 20 years. People still know who I'm talking about. All right, so with that said, what this is doing, understanding there's been layered over zeitgeist protocols that have masked over the real meaning of the scriptures by hiding the Hebrew meaning, okay? And when you've done that in Matthew 12:32, you know, you can blaspheme the Son of Man, and you will be forgiven. But if you blaspheme the Holy Spirit, you will not be forgiven in this life or the next. I'm like, well, what do you mean by the Holy Spirit? That is the word, the teaching, all right, of God, right? And God taught in his language, which was Hebrew, the symbolic Hebrew. All right. Creating a new zeitgeist with a proper understanding.